And it's alright with me. It's alright with me. It's alright with me. And it's alright with
Art, culture, and joyful acts of resistance on Usula Media. I'm so happy that you've joined us today because we have two very, very special guests. We have Mytia, Zavala, and Loretta, Todd. And I will introduce them and then we can get to our fabulous conversation. Mytia is the executive director of the American Indian Film Institute in San Francisco. She holds a BA in journalism from San Francisco State University and an MA in multimedia communications with an emphasis in producing and video editing from the Academy of Art University in San Francisco. In the fall of 2018, Zavala made her festival directorial debut to a packed house celebrating the 43rd annual American Indian Film Festival in San Francisco. Following the passing of her father, Michael Smith, founder and director of the American Indian Film Institute, Zavala comes from the Navajo, Laguna Pueblo, and Grand Ronde tribes and is an enrolled member of the Fort Peck Sioux tribe of Montana. Welcome, Mytia.
Thank you.
And Loretta is Métis Cree and is internationally acclaimed award-winning filmmaker who directed her first dramatic feature film, Monkey Beach, based on the iconic novel by Eden Robinson. She also co-wrote the script and is producing. Ms. Todd has directed over 125 programs from children's series like Coyote's Crazy Smart Science Show to Sky and Chang, a sci-fi martial arts mashup, as well as a web series, Fierce Girls, and numerous documentaries, shorts, and animation. Her films have screened at the Sundance Film Festival, TIFF, Imaginative, and the Museum of Modern Art. Ms. Todd has received the Mayor's Awards for Media Arts, City of Vancouver, Sundance Scriptwriters Lab, Sundance Institute, Rockefeller Fellowship, NYU Center for Media, Culture and History, and Innovator Award from Women in Film. Unbelievable. Both really incredible bios. I'm so happy to welcome you here. Thank you for joining us. Mytia, if you could start us off by talking about the film festival, which starts today. It's so exciting.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Tailin. It's really good to see you and Loretta. Yeah, our festival starts today. It's virtual this year, and it's 9 days long. It goes from November 6th to the 14th, and it's hosted on our website at www.aifisf.com. But we're really excited. We have a lot of films this year. We have 102 films, 55 world premieres. It's 9 days long. And we have filmmakers just from just everywhere, all across the world, really, all the way out into France, and then also located in the Bay Area, just everywhere. So we're really excited to present this year and really allow access to the world, and let them see who we are, what we're all about, and what we do. So we're really excited, and today's the day, and we're just glad we're here with you.
Well, it's amazing that you've been able to join us, and when we were talking earlier, you're saying it's been such a shift from previous years. So this is which annual is this? I mean, this film festival has been going on for decades.
Yeah, it started in 1975 with my dad in Seattle. He started it as a student when he was attending the University of Washington, and it just, he formed it with the student group there. And then in 1979, he moved it out to San Francisco. There was a lot of political activity going on, and it was just the right place to host it. And I came along years later, and grew up with the festival. Started out, passing out programs, and
right.
Working with the vendors, and then moving backstage and coordinating the award show, and then
right.
It just step by step. And then before I knew it, I was just working alongside my dad, just more side by side. And then he when he passed in 2018. it's just it transitioned into his role. So, but this year we're celebrating the 45th annual American Indian Film Festival.
It's incredible. And it's incredible how much impact your organization and the festival has had in Native communities and for Native film. And I remember attending when I lived in that area, you know, and watching it just, it's always been something that's really special to people, Native people in the film industry, but just in our community as a whole, to have representation and to be able to go out and see these films where our stories are being told, and to see you like taking it on and making all these big moves, you know, just being on Air Alaska, was it Air Alaska, and all these film programs that you're doing, and expanding, and now going into a virtual space. I mean, because of the quarantine, but also because this is just where things are headed anyway.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful to see the impact and the ripple throughout the world, really. So congratulations. I'm
Thank you.
so
Thank
excited, and I'm so excited to watch the films. Loretta, I want to loop you into this conversation too, because one of your films is showing Monkey Beach, and it's a gorgeous film. If you could tell us a little bit about it, and tell us when is it airing, Mytia? When will Monkey Beach?
It streams November 6th to the 14th.
Okay.
First of all, I really want to acknowledge Michael Smith, because you're
Yes.
right, many of us wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. The fact that he believed in Indigenous filmmakers, that he created a space. I mean, no one asked him to, he didn't have to do it, but he decided that this was important. And, you know, it's been so meaningful to me as a filmmaker. I remember my very first American Indian Film Festival. It was for my film Forgotten Warriors. And I was flying from Vancouver. I basically get off the flight and go to the festival. And so I'm driving to in a cab to the festival, and I see elders and all their regalia in pickup trucks, and, you know, and also next to me in Cadillacs. And it's just like, we're on the freeway, and there's so many Native people on the freeway, and oh my God, they must be going to the American Indian Film Festival. And I sort of felt like I was in a TC Cannon painting because it was just so, I don't know, it was so amazing. And then to get there, and there was like 1,000 people there, and, you know, just this sort of the beauty and strength of all these Indigenous people. And I remember one of the young fellows came up to me after the film, and he said, you know, my uncles went to war, and he says, you know, I didn't really think much about it, but after I saw your film, I just makes me understand them better. And, you know, and you go like, that's what's the beauty of the American Indian Film Festival, is it brings together generations. It brings, there was hippies there, you know, it brings, you know, it's cross-cultural, non-Indigenous people there. And it was just, you know, just did my heart good. And it just sort of propelled me to my next film and my next film. And you know, I only have respect and for Michael Smith. And, you know, I really talked to Mytia. To me, showing Monkey Beach here is really a tribute to him. And so, you know, I'm grateful forever. And the fact that, you know, Mytia has taken on, you know, the journey, and is doing it with such love and such devotion, first to, you know, to her father's memory, but also just out of respect for Indigenous filmmakers, Indigenous storytelling. And so I just have my heart and, you know, my prayers and my love to them all. So that's what I wanted to start.
It's beautiful. Thank you for saying all of those things. And it really, resonates a lot. And when you were talking about all natives in the city, so in San Francisco and Oakland, everyone's like, you get there and everyone's decked out. And then, you know, it's just in good spirits, and then being moved by the films you're showing. I mean, all the layers of emotion and feeling that you get from being in that space with community, there was just nothing like it. And you're right. And your dad and you and your mom and just everybody who joined on, you're right, Loretta, it's not, he didn't have to do it. And I'm sure it wasn't easy, right? Like starting something and having a nonprofit and raising money, that's hard, that's life passion work. And the fact that you and your whole family, you know, just it makes it's so impactful, and it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Thank
Thank you so much, Mytia, and your mom, and always, you guys always said such warm welcome, and this is such a warm welcome. So, so to talk about Monkey Beach, there's a little a sound going on. Is that, I don't know whether the technical person hears that, or am I the only one hearing that? I'm not sure.
Here.
Pardon? You hear it? No? Okay. All right. It's so Monkey Beach. So Monkey Beach, yeah, I'm again another film that I can only have respect for the people who were able to help let me make it, and that's Eden Robinson. And Eden Robinson's amazing writer in Canada. She's Haisla Helsuk from Kitimat Village, which is 18 miles north of Vancouver. It's along the length of the Douglas Channel. Amazing writer. She's been writing for, I don't know, a couple of decades now. She's always getting these great accolades and all these, and she deserves them all because she's just so dedicated to her writing and so dedicated to her family and to her nation. And what happened was, I was, actually, interestingly enough, I was asked to direct another book, but the producer couldn't get the option. But I had watched the process of how he was trying to option it. And so somewhere along the line, someone said to me, "You should option Monkey Beach." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because her writing's like your filmmaking." And I knew about the book, and you're so busy, when am I going to get a chance to read the book? So I quickly went out and read the book, and sure enough, it just did feel that way, that kind of lyrical, sort of, elliptical, not three plot, 3-act kind of plot point kind of writing. It was just very indigenous, and it just and cinematic. It just really, really spoke to me. And interestingly enough, in acknowledgement, so even though Eden and I had never met, she acknowledged me, which was weird because I guess she was sort of inspired, but also because of that Forgotten Warriors, which was a film she used as research for one of the characters. So kind of was meant to be. So that was the journey. But I have to say, it wasn't an easy journey. It's been many years. I was kind of maybe ahead of the curve or whatever. I don't know. Maybe because it's so elliptical, so indigenous. Every time we would go out for financing, people would say, "Yes, we love it, but it's so big. It's going to be so expensive," or it's so indigenous, although they wouldn't use that word. And so it was definitely a journey. But now it's there in the world. In Canada, actually, it played at TIFF and Industry Selects. It opened the Vancouver Film Festival. And what was really nice about that this year, because it's a virtual, because our COVID is kind of a little bit under control, but not like really under control, but controlled enough that the theaters are open with 50 people maximum and masks and physical distancing. They were able to open the theater, open the film festival up outside of Vancouver. So it also played in towns outside of Vancouver and independent theaters. And in Terrace, which is about a 45-minute drive away from Kitimat, which is the closest theater to Kitimat, the village where the film is set and where Eden, where the story comes from, they had 18 sold-out houses. People just were flocking to the film. They loved it.
Incredible.
And, there's this kind of groundswell going on in the air right now up here in Canada, where it's then Cineplex, which is a major theater chain, called us up and said, "Hey, we want to show it in the theater." So it's been showing in the theaters in Canada now for in Vancouver for 4 weeks and across Canada for 2 weeks. And in BC, it was in some of the theaters the number one film against films like Tenet, and some of the American films that are out. And then across Canada, it was the number one Canadian film in the theater. So, but mostly what really heartens me more than anything is that I get emails and, calls from friends and social media messages saying how healing it is. And that's the most important thing, is that it's something that somehow the film gives people space to feel their feelings. And that, for us, as Indigenous people, it's hard for us to go there. And so it's been really, really amazing journey.
Congratulations. It sounds like people are getting really excited about it, and the fact that it resonates with so many people and they're writing to you. Do you find that the non-Indigenous community how are they reacting to it, and what are they getting from it?
I think there's a mixture. I think in BC there seems to be, a lot of people, non-Indigenous people, going to see the film. On the prairies, where of course things are a little bit more divided. Just anecdotally, I have no, it sounds like the people who are going to the theater are mostly Indigenous people. So I don't know how many non-Indigenous people are going to see it outside of BC. But overall, I think they're experiencing the same thing. It's interesting. It plays. We're talking to the exhibitor, to the theater chain, and there's actually now three theater chains that have picked it up. There's the big one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then little small indie films as theaters as well. We were talking about that, and it was interesting because it's done well in a town like Victoria. In Victoria, you would think, well, it's mostly older white retired people. Well, it's older white retired people who buy Indigenous authors, so they're going to see the film because they read the book. And so that's been, heartening, and that many of them are going back. So that means they must like the film. I think there's always that challenge because it's a book. People have their expectation of what the film would be. I think for non-Indigenous people, they might have a more literal mind. So they might say it's got to be like this. Whereas I think for Indigenous people, people experience it, and they see the story, they see the characters, and they see the place, but they're not going to say, "Well, you didn't have that in the book. It's not in there." So I think that might be a little bit of the difference. But beyond that, they've definitely embraced it as well.
Well, it's great storytelling. I'd really like you to talk about what you touched upon, the nonlinear aspect of it, right? And that. And how and how that reflects how we tell stories and our traditions. So that's one question I have. And then the other question I have about it is there are a lot of things brought up about our traditions, and sometimes there's things that you can't put in movies, right? So how do you get certain things across so that all the audience understand it, and it touches upon that emotional piece, but everything matters.
All right, and just so you know that there seems to be a disconnect on your audio sometimes. So I don't know whether maybe there's something. So I don't know what that is. Maybe the tech guy can tell you, because it's just once in a while we lose your audio. I hope it's nothing serious. I think it might maybe, I don't know. So maybe it's the connection with your earphones, but in any case, I'm just being a director, sorry. Well, it's a beautiful story. In the book, she sometimes shifts, like on one page, she'll shift time and place within a paragraph, she'll shift suddenly from, childhood to, to the present. And, there's all this, and she does it with such ease. That's the other thing. It's not like, oh, here I go, I'm going to shift time. It's just done like naturally. It's just the way it is. It's just,
Right.
And she talked about that in her in an interview a few years ago about the book. She used the word double exposure. And I thought that was really interesting, because I think that really speaks to us as Indigenous people, this idea that there's the material world that we experience, but then there is this, some people might call it the supernatural, where there is, other beings, that exist. And there was a time probably when we all could experience that and see that. And sometimes, you get glimpses of it yourself, but then there are other people who see it like all the time. And, culturally, there were ways of helping those people. So there would be ceremony, there'd be understanding of that power that they had. And I think a lot of the people, and I'm not the first person who said this, that some of the people who we find lost today are because they've never, come to terms with the fact that they have these abilities, and the society that we're in doesn't really recognize them or understand them. So I think that's sort of she's existing in a place that as a writer, I think she just goes there. She has that strength of vision. She has that strength of being that she just goes there. As a filmmaker, how do you translate that? Like, how do you make that real? You know, a limited budget, you know, and like you say, there's cultural, you know, ways that you don't say things, and not being Haisla, that makes it even more a challenge for me, you know. So I mean, I think that for me, what I really wanted to do was make the film feel like, you know, there was funny. There was my original vision, and my original vision was pretty big, and I don't think, I'm not going to say I compromised it because of the budget, but I would say that, you know, it's a little different from that big vision where I had many layers of cinema, you know, but I had a 20-day shoot, so I had to deal with that. But I was adamant that the film had to be filmed in Kitimat, in the village where it's from. And that also was, you know, meant the budget, big part of the budget went to, you know, getting equipment and crew to
Right, but that made all
Kitimat.
the difference, right?
I think so. I do. But there's a whole elliptical thing. To me, story is like a wave. It's like energy. You know, I listen to people who talk about it, the elders who talk about storytelling, and they talk about this idea of, you know, being like a river. And I like to think of it as a river, and then there's little eddies where you go into a part, and then you flow along some more, and it's not, and then it isn't even like but it's endless, right? It's not like, oh, the flow goes and then it ends. It's like that same water here is recirculating here. So it's all kind of, it's all very, you know, like I say, very elliptical. And to me, it was really important to let people feel like there's no past, present, future, that they all coexist. And that's something that was really critical to me.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about Monkey Beach. This is Tailin Agoyo on Usula Radio.
Thank you, guys. Now the sun's coming in, and now. No.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five. They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Hi, we're back with Loretta, Todd, and Mytia, Zavala. Mytia, I wanted to ask you what excited you about Monkey Beach, and how have you been sharing it with the world so that they can all tune in?
Yeah, well, I heard about Monkey Beach years ago. I saw like little things pop up through social media, and I was like, oh, what is this? What is going on here? And and then I also yeah, you know, I saw little postings over the last few years and everything. And you know, Loretta has been a dear friend with my dad, and so, you know, you know, I reached out and I was like, hi, you know, and you know, just showed my interest because I was seeing pictures of like big names, native actors, I was like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing and stuff. So, you know, I had been following her progress over the years, and then she reached out last year, and the first time I saw it, I was just like, I cried. It's such a beautiful film, just beautifully shot. You know, Loretta, you're directing, just everything was just on point. It's just gorgeous. And even, I mean, your cast too. Grace, she's just a beautiful person. And I've seen her in films over the last few years. She's been in she's been in a collection of films that we had. So I was like, oh, I know her, you know. And then I was like, oh, Nathaniel, oh wow, Adam, you know. It's just, and so, you know, it's just when I saw it though, I just cried, because, you know, it's just, when you lose somebody, you have this kind of like a little bit more opening to the afterlife, the spirit world. And so it was just, it just hit, you know, especially since my dad has been gone. So it just hit me just differently. So I mean, it's just beautiful. We've just been, you know, we're a small organization, and so we've been using our platform as much as we can to, you know, to, you know, showcase the film in our festival, and then also, you know, talking with her to, you know, show it out even further in different regions in the United States. So we're talking with Loretta on some different opportunities, but we're excited to have the film in the festival this year. And the film is nominated for 6 awards: Best Film, Best Director, Actress, Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress. And so it's it's just a beautiful film. We're so proud to have it in our festival.
Thank you. Loretta, are you feeling, how do you feel about this pivot? I mean, I know that you've been doing virtual screenings already, but now that the festival is not in person, you're not flying in, like, how does that affect the experience?
Well, you know, I'm not going to have the TC Cannon moment, but I mean, I will have it in my mind, you know, just, I imagine there's going to be all these cuckoos and mushrooms out, you know, at their computers, you know, watching the films with their kids. And so, you know, we're, you know, we connect, you know. There was what somebody said, because I also do other things. Like I have this virtual reality lab up here in Vancouver called the IM4 Lab. And, you know, and doing research to put that together. I remember reading an elder on from Australia. I wish I could remember his name, and I look time to time to try to find that quote, find out who said it. But anyways, he said that this is all old news to us. You know, that, you know, the village is always abuzz with networks. You know, that, and in a way it's true. Our, you know, our communities, the Moccasin Telegraph. You know, this sort of virtual communication has always been there, you know, with us. Now the technology is kind of caught up with us. So it's, you know, there's that, but there's a part of me that, you know, wishes we were, you know, together. That was nice about the Vancouver Film Festival, is that we were able to show it actually in the theater, you know, just with 50 people. But what was really nice about the Vancouver Film Festival is that they then put extra screening on, so that I could invite, you know, well, 50 of the crew, you know, and some of the cast, because it was limited. I had limited numbers of tickets I could use for the opening, because they also had their board members and their funders and so on. So that, you know, there was a, you know, limited. So it was so nice to be able to have Grace out there, and Zoe Snow, the girl who plays young Lisa, and Carla Robinson, who is Eden's sister, who also worked as executive producer and consulting producer, and her daughter Lena, who plays what we're calling the Gossip Girls at the party. And so so that was nice, because I was able to invite them up and give them, you know, blankets and thank them, you know, formally, and you know, within the sort of limited time, and with the consciousness of COVID. So we all had to wear masks, and, you know, you don't want to put any of
Right.
your words out there and the droplets. So, but it was still really, a special moment, and especially for those Zoe Snow, because that was her first big film, and she kept emailing me and Facebooking me and saying, please, please let me come out, please, please. And, and I was like, I don't want you flying because I don't want you and your parents and your family to get COVID. And she was like, well, we'll drive out. So I worked it out where I paid, the hotel and stuff, and
Amazing.
and so then they came out, and she was just so thrilled. And then later they gave me this beautiful ribbon skirt, very much like the ribbon skirt she wore that night. So it was very sweet, and that she's such an amazing young actor. And all you native directors out there, you should look for her if you're looking for a young actress, Zoe Snow. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I think the virtual thing is what we did during Vancouver Film Festival. Is because there was people in the village up in Kitimat who still aren't comfortable, even though, to go into the theater. So I was able to arrange the Vancouver Film Festival to passes to the people in the village, so that those who didn't want to go to the theater would be able to see it on screen.
Oh,
So that, I mean, those are all good things. I think there's a lot of good things about virtual things, because it takes it sometimes beyond just
Right.
like one place. It takes it beyond that, and I think that's good for people to feel connected, that they can see something that they wouldn't otherwise see because they don't live in Vancouver,
Exactly.
or in this case, San Francisco.
Right. I'd like to go back to talking about the children in the film and how you work with them, because their performances are so beautiful and honest. And I know that you work with children, you have other shows, and so this is something that you do. How do you develop that skill?
I think, well, it's growing up with a pack of kids. I mean, I came from a big family, and the next one up babysits the ones coming up, right? So you're just always around kids, and so I think that there's just that sort of comfort level. I think, and I don't know what it is. I think there's just a kind of one of the things I remember an elder said to me. He says, when you see a child, you always acknowledge them. You always say hello. So whenever whenever I'm at some people bring some, they got kids with them. It's always like, make sure that I say hello to the kids, so that they know that they're just as important there as anybody else. And so I think that's something I kind of try to think about, not just the actual act of acknowledging, but I mean just that sort of acknowledging who they are. Little Oliver was, I mean, he's made for acting. He knows his lines, he hits his mark. He's like Mr. Energy. So he was really easy to work with. Zoe, she's got a bigger role. She's got this serious role. She's dealing with these kind of serious stuff, and so I had to acknowledge, her. I had to. I wouldn't say comfort her, but she had to know that I was there for her, that I was going to protect her, that I was going to keep her safe, and that she didn't have to, and that there's nothing she could do that wouldn't be right, that I wouldn't judge her, that I wouldn't say, that's wrong, that's stupid, you got to do this again.
Right.
It would be more like, okay, obviously she's not quite getting there, she's maybe a little tired. Sometimes I resorted to candy, but I try not to do that.
That's the trick.
I mean, that's my last resort. My absolutely last resort. It's like the end of the day. Like on my children's series, I won't put candy on the crafty table, because I don't want kids buzzing around all over the place. So it's always fruit and vegetables, and good things, cheese, like really good vegetable fruit, but I never put candy out. But if it's the end of the day and they're just like, I'll put a little bit of candy up, good candy. So, or some juice. But generally, she's a sweet, girl. And I also really helped Mama Tina Lehman.
Mhm.
Tina Lehman is like everybody's kukum, grandma and Cree. And so she's or everybody's auntie. And so that helped as well because they have a lot of relationships together. And so Tina just also took her under her, under her sort of arms and wings, and kind of really was there as a comfort. And she became, Grace really was warm to her. The male actors were very kind and, very respectful to her. So, there was a really nice, and I do that. I try to. One of the things I learned actually, not directly, but, just through the filmmakers kind of dialogue, and, people tell stories about different filmmakers, but there's actually a French filmmaker in Quebec, and he had told a friend of mine about what he does when he goes into production. He talks about creating a circle, a sacred circle, and that the crew, directors to PA, everybody, we're all equal in that circle. And then in the middle of the circle is the actors, or in the case of a documentary, the people who are telling a story in the documentary. And so he tells the PA and the camera and everybody and himself that being equal, they have to protect that sacred space. They have to keep it safe. And if, a PA does something wrong or the director does something wrong, everybody has to be honest enough to say something, because it doesn't matter whether you're a PA or a director. If you do something wrong, it's going to screw up the whole film, right? Or the whole day, or So there's that kind of honesty that, you try to work with, and that idea of creating sacred space. And so that's what I tried to do. We did a little bit of ceremony at the beginning. I brought in a good friend of mine who has worked on many sets. He worked on X-Files and for many years, and now he's an elder and a resident in the family services. So he came and talked about, protocols and such. I tried as much as possible to have as big as Indigenous crew as I could. On my children's series, I'm like 100% Indigenous crew. There's girls, 100% Indigenous crew, but for this was a little harder because it was a union shoot. And I would keep saying, well, this person for this role, and then they would say, well, that's a union job. And it's like, and our people don't necessarily go through the union. We're just as capable, we're just as skilled, we're just as experienced, but we don't go that union route because we work as indies amongst ourselves. So that was an issue for me. But it's got as many of our people that I worked with on Coyote Science and other people that I knew that, I wanted to make sure they were on set. So I feel we had a good, strong number of Indigenous people there, and, and also diverse. So if I could, if they would say, well, that's a union, and there's no Indigenous people in that union position, I would go, well, is there a diverse person, or is there a woman? So I tried to kind of build that kind of environment so that our actors would feel, they're not just surrounded, no disrespect, white male, but it's nice for our people, sometimes white men, you guys have been sometimes we don't feel safe around you. So here's a chance for all of us to create this very safe space so that when the actors look out, they can see brown faces, they can see women, they can see diverse, they can see the good, gentle white men who are there to also, support our storytelling. So I think I was able to kind of create that kind of environment. I'd like to think that, on set, behind the scenes, that's another story, but on set, I think, so that the young actors could feel that safety.
Yeah, that really translates in the scenes. I mean, you really feel it. And as a viewer, you feel safe too. You're going down this emotional road. What's going to happen? But you also feel like it's okay. Like it's all part of this bigger picture that we're part of. Do you get that feeling too, Mytia?
Yeah, definitely. It's just the warmth that resonates within the actors. It's a sort of comfort that you feel like you're part of the family almost, like you're looking in. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is beautiful. So thank you. We're going to take another break and we'll be back with Loretta, Todd, and Mytia Zavala.
I came out in the 11th grade. Nobody was embracing you. The kids were cruel. It was very difficult to be gay. Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. And even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, Maria, and she convinced me to continue my education. Just never judges. She's a true role model. From the depths of my heart, I thank you, Maria, for being a friend and a beautiful person. No one receives a diploma alone, and I'm honored to share this moment with you. Thank you. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Okay, we're back. And over break, we were talking to Loretta about the actors, and I wanted to ask you well, you know, you're talking about this warm environment that everybody is a part of, and you have such an amazing range of actors and ages and people from different places. How was the experience? Like, what was the feedback that you got from that?
Well, you know, it's interesting, you know, bless our hearts, but us Cree, Métis, Dakota people, we tend to get the ones that get cast because we got the high cheekbones, and you know, it's sort of that's the expectation. But you know, the people on the West Coast, they have, you know, we're many types, right? As Indigenous people, we
Right.
look many ways. So it was important for me to also try to ensure that there were people from the West Coast, and to, you know, as actors. So you know, I was so honored that Adam Beach wanted to be in this, and Nathaniel Arcand and I are old friends. Forgotten Warriors, he plays the soldier going off to war, and so he's like a you know, like a little brother to me in many ways. And you know, we started off together. You know, I guess we'd say brother. I mean, I'm not that much older than him. I don't think, but and then and of course, you know, I'd seen Tina Lehman in a show on AP Blessings, and I you know, I found her so charming, and also she's, even though she's you know, from the prairie, she also to me looked, you know, more West Coast. So you know, and Sarah Elise McCarthy was in Sky and Chang, of course. Mytia knows, and I knew I always wanted to work with her again. You know, we're friends, and I really admire her. I think she's very talented, and so you know, I knew there were people I wanted to work with. So you know, I was very fortunate. So then looking out here into the West Coast, I was like, where, you know, Grace isn't from that, you know, the West Coast, but she's like from, you know, 8 hours over, 10 hours over from the coast. She's from Prince George. So, and, you know, there's just no question about her, you know, I don't know what's the word, you know, she's got this, she's like a symphony, you know, as an actor goes. She's just got so many notes and so many sounds, and you know, so many rhythms that she, you know, she's so blessed. I mean, she's amazing. I mean, she looks amazing, but also she just has this depth, and she's, you know, she sometimes, you know, I know she worked with Forrest Whitaker in that Netflix series, Netflix film, and she said she learned a lot from Forrest Whitaker, and he's one of my favorite actors. And you could see it. You could see that she's just has this kind of able to just inhabit the moment, just so much attentiveness, but yet so much naturalness. So I was so lucky for her. And then Stephanie Mathias is someone I've known for many years, and you know, I've been trying to make feature films for a while now. And so back in the day, because again, we were ahead of the curve, right? And Stephanie had auditioned for something that we were trying to put together. And I always knew one day, and she's from the West Coast. Her father was the late Joe Mathias. And, you know, she comes from this very prominent Indigenous family who, you know, from the Squamish Nation. So she, you know, she said she got the call from her agent saying, you know, the director picked you. And so, you know, she said that was very thrilling for her. You know, and then young Frank, the guy who plays Frank, is, you know, is an up and coming actor. He's not Haisla, but he's Tlingit and Haida and Shimshan, I think, which is all in that, you know, area around Kitimat. I'm probably leaving somebody else. Young Mika Whiskey Jack is really one of the young. Sorry about this. So I'm going to just mute this a minute and just turn and just, I should have unplugged the phone.
Okay. So We can chat. Mytia, what do you think about, I don't know, it just did really feel different. I mean, there are so many wonderful Indigenous films, but this one just, it had a feeling like you were saying. Can you elaborate more on the experience of watching the film?
Yeah. So again, there's so many layers to the film. You get the spiritual layer, you get the family layer. It's just there's something that just kind of connects you with the story. Even I mean, I can't speak for non-natives, but it's just it's just a film that speaks to many people. Like I said, once you have a loss, once you feel that loss, you're kind of a little bit more aware of the spirit world. And it's just it just yeah, it's just that spirit world layer that was just kind of like spoke to me, and it gave me a good feeling. I think there was this one part in the film where she said, it's too much for my heart, when she was talking with Tabitha, and I was just like, that hit me right there. It's just because she was dealing with seeing all of the spirits, and then communicating with them, and not to me, not knowing how to ingest it all at one time, but it but the part where she's with Mama Oo, and she said, you can look, but you can't stay. I think that's right there. That was where it just kind of like the tears just started flowing, and it's just, I was just like, no. And then also like the soundtrack of the film, and I'm just like, oh, and I recognize some voices from and I wanted to ask you, Loretta, who I was trying to find some information on your soundtrack too, and I couldn't find anything. And it sounds is Jennifer Kreisberg one of the singers? Okay, I know her voice. If you know Ulali, you know their voice. It's just intact in my brain. So I'm like, oh, that's Jennifer. And then it also sounded like Ron. Oh gosh, his last name is I can't remember, but yeah, I just wanted to ask you who was part of the soundtrack, because the music is just gorgeous.
Music is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch my children's series, you know that I've been doing weird things with soundtracks forever. Like Oz 12 did, for my other children's series, and the 10, he he's a hip hop rapper, and I had him compose the music for that children's series. And so all these other people I've been having as so that I'm always bringing our people's music into the mix. And so what I did is I tried to focus on people who were from there, so that so Snotty Nose Res kids are from Kitimat, and they appear in the there. That's them. And then they also, there's a Mob Bounce, and Heaps of Earthchild are also from that area. And so I've been using their music. Their music was in Sky and Chang, Mytia. I had some Mob Bounce and that one then too. And actually Mob Bounce appears in Coyote Science last season. So and then Chris Dirksen, who's an amazing musician, and Esquire, and Tiffany Moses, and Russell Wallace. Russell, who's also one of the composers. They're the voices. You can hear their voices in the thing. And then I did work with a non-Indigenous composer, but he collaborated with Russell, and he works with Tanya Tatak, the throat singer. And so he's very, very attuned. Like, he's not like, oh, I'm a white guy, I'm going to tell you all about, how you have to put symphonic music here. he really listened to me. That was we really kind of arrived at a very good place with respect to the sound I was looking for, this idea of almost voices. So the music almost sounds like voices sometimes. It's like, but it's not, because in the book, there's always voices. And when you're in Kitimat, there's because the weather changes so much, because there are this sort of confluence of mountain and land and ocean and all these sort of currents, and the weather will change sometimes in 15 minutes, that there's always this sound, there's a sound always. And so it's almost like voices. So that, I mean, I'm probably leaving out some of the musicians. Arthur Renrick, who's from there, also you can his songs in the background in the party. So there's, I mean, it's all. Well, it's funny, when I went to film school, they said, "Oh, don't make films without music, because using music is just cheating." And I kind of feel this differently. I feel like the music is like in harmony. It's like it's part of, there are, it's our emotions, and it's okay to, to embrace our emotions. And I think that whole thing about safety, letting people embrace their emotions, and the music is a way of letting us do that. I also have to do a big shout out to the people of Kitimat, the Haisla Nation, who were also able to help us with the funding, because there was a grant program within the Chaco Kitimat Development Corporation, and we were able to get some funds from that to be able to, the Haisla Nation was able to provide. So big shout out to the Haisla Nation, but the people of the village as well, because we filmed there. There was a group of women, and you'll see their names in the credits, who were locations, and those women, many of them, they were recruited by my dear friend Lucretia Din, who became my assistant, and who's a friend and who's Dene from up north. But she found these women. Some of them took time off work to come and work on Monkey Beach, and then the locations, you're the first ones up and the last ones to leave. And those women, some of them were grandmothers, and they were the most dedicated of all the crew. And so, we would go for Chinese food sometimes in town when we had a minute, but they, I admire them all so much. And, we still get messages, people saying, come back, we love you, and it was important, redistribution of wealth, it's one of our values. And
Right.
so it was more important for me to go up there and pay locations up there, and,
Right.
hire people from there, hire the fishing boats, the fishing captains,
Right.
commercial fisheries down. And so those people have this like generations of knowledge of the currents of the ocean, of the fish. They came, and they, their knowledge was so valuable to keep us safe, because we did a lot of boat work.
Yeah.
We were in the water a lot, and a lot of the divers were native, and even the stunt coordinator, he's not native, but he's married to John Sparrow from the Musqueam, and so he knows, he's very good. He knows how to be with native people. So
you had like an amazing.
yeah. So I mean, I picked people very carefully when I could. Again, there was some behind the scenes stuff that I didn't always have control over, and it did result in some awkwardness. But overall, the people were just generally so embracing, and they just gave their all to us being there, and I really respect that for sure. And I hope I didn't leave any actors out, because Mike the Jelly, who played Bug Watts, the Scots Vibes, that's actually Frank's dad. So that was really cool. And then we had the young guys, the extras, the people who were actually from the village. And some of the people were, it's funny, the Kitimat elders didn't want to be in the film. So the elders are actually from the village over. But the
Loretta, I'm sorry
yeah.
to interrupt, but there's another show coming on, so I'm getting the notice that we have to wrap up.
No, sorry, I'm going
no,
on.
we could talk for hours.
I know.
I really would love to continue this conversation another time. Honestly, I would really love to bring you back. But it's really obvious how all the community coming together and your thoughtfulness has really contributed to the film. So please tune into American Indian Film Institute this week. All of the 100+ films are on there. Monkey Beach, you have to see it. Mytia, can you give the website real quick?
Yes, the website, you can find us at www.ai FISF.com. That's American Indian Film Institute San Francisco.com. And yeah, we're around. Please visit us, support Native cinema, support Loretta, support all of the filmmakers that have put their heart and souls into making these films. And we're just reach out to us.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and Mytia, it's so lovely to see you, and thank you for giving so much love to Monkey Beach, but to all the films. And anyway, I just hope there's another 45 years for the American Indian Film Festival. It truly is.
Congratulations, really wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for joining us today. Join us next Friday on Rise and Thrive, where we'll have Loretta.
And it's all right with me. It's all